conversation and ask you, what are some of the biggest challenges you see for female players and also for those that are trying to build their careers in tech?
It's a great question. It's an important question. And I really like that you're asking it from both angles. So when it comes to competitive gaming, women still find themselves at a huge disadvantage. And it has absolutely nothing to do with skill. It's because they can't focus 100% on the game. Instead, they need to spend energy dealing with all the harassment they face. And having experienced it firsthand myself, it can be daunting and it takes away from the focus of the actual competition. And how is that fair?
No, it's not fair. It's not fair at all.
It isn't. And it's something we spend a lot of time discussing on Valorant and at Riot. And you know, it's not a terribly easy problem to solve, but the problems we're solving are rarely easy. What I will say is that we're absolutely committed to creating an inclusive environment for competition and creating safe opportunities for women to compete without fear of identity or gender-based harassment. So that's the gaming aspect.
That's so interesting and so real. So let me ask you then, when we talk about careers, what's the situation there?
Okay, so when it comes to careers in gaming, there's definitely work to be done there as well. I was fortunate enough to have a really impactful mentor early on. I had just started a job at a temp company, and while I played games, I had no idea what a career in gaming could even look like. And then at this gaming company, one of the women I was working with told me she thought I had what it took to become a game producer. I had no idea what a game producer was, but I went with it, and now 20+ years later, here I am. And as you mentioned, there are not enough women in the industry, so it means a lot that she brought me with her. I try to pay that forward to all the women who are coming up after me, but we need more.
Wow, I tell you, your story is so inspiring, and it's the first time that I actually hear you saying it like that. So thank you, and it just reinforces how important mentorship is. So a little bit of a follow-up to the previous question, but how can both then technology and commitments to allyship play a role in the changes that we still need to see in the industry?
So I'll tell you, one of the most exciting parts of being a developer is that I get to be part of creating the future of Valorant. My team and I spend all of our time dreaming and exploring ways to make the player experience even better. And then we get to go and actually build it. It's a really interesting mix of creativity and engineering. All of the technology you've mentioned on stage today is impacting how we work and what we're able to create. So please keep those advancements coming. When it comes to specific changes that need to be made to protect women in competitive gaming, we absolutely need to keep investing and prioritizing innovations that help fight against harassment. And honestly, the gaming community needs to take a more active role in the community that it's creating. If game developers can be allies, and I truly believe we can and should, then so can your teammates in game. And again, we just need more women throughout the whole gaming ecosystem. We need an industry-wide commitment around diversity and inclusion, and we're finally starting to see that.
I like the way you say it, and I couldn't agree more. We need more women, we need more diversity in the industry, and that's why we're taking it to the next level. Today, we are announcing an expansion of our commitment to the Valorant Game Changers Initiative. We are launching together today a new training program dedicated to mentoring up-and-coming female esports casters. The program that is launching very soon this fall will team up them with professionals in the field to provide them with practical tools and knowledge to help advance their careers. It's pretty cool, huh?
Okay, so this is amazing. Game Changers is all about providing experience and exposure to women in gaming. We want to inspire the next generation of not only players, but any women who want to build careers in any aspect of the gaming industry. So this program fits so perfectly with our mission. It'll provide a pipeline of female talent that is so sorely lacking. I am so glad that Verizon is not only acknowledging the issue, but taking actions to push for change.
Well, I love what you say, but the reality is that no one can make real change alone. So we are equally thankful for your support and for Riot's support as well. Fantastic job.
Thank you.
So Anna, thank you for being here with us today. Thank you for the great conversation.
Thank you so much for having me, Diego. And honestly, thank you so much for caring about it as much as I do.
It's great to have you. Thank you. So now I have a final big announcement, and I want to ask Nikki to help me with it. So come on out, Nikki.
Yes, Diego, this is big, and I am so proud to help announce it. You know, Verizon is deeply committed to building a more inclusive and diverse tech sector. Our work in this space has been going on for decades and frankly speaks for itself.
We are so proud of the work we've done, but we also know that more action needs to be taken to address the lack of female representation in gaming and more broadly in STEM. So today, Verizon is making a new $1 million commitment to increase female representation in gaming and STEM. For this, we are creating the Verizon Game Forward Scholarship. The scholarship is an expansion of the Future Fund, our initiative to support emerging female talent across entertainment and technology.
That's right. And you know, this fall, Verizon will partner with 5 historically Black colleges and universities to provide scholarships to 5 female students at each school who are active gamers and also pursuing degrees in fields that are tied to gaming development, such as computer science, graphic design, software engineering. And those 5 schools are Dillard, Delaware State, Morgan State, Texas Southern University, and Howard.
Estamos en la conferencia, si no mal no recuerdo, de Interactive, ¿vale? No es todavía la de Take-Two. Así que tenemos todavía tiempo para conversar un ratito, ¿vale? Justamente ahora, después de esta, un cuarto para las 1 en unos 40 minutos más o menos. Deberíamos ya entrar con Take-Two y su conferencia. Bien, ahora estoy conectado desde la Xbox, bien, ya que ayer el computador estaba dando un poco de jugo, así que voy a bajarle un poquito a esto para que me puedan escuchar. Y voy a tener en este caso el computador listo también con la conferencia. En caso de que se caiga este, vamos al tiro con el otro para evitar trama, ¿no? Porque ayer está dando un jugo enorme, gigantesco.
Verizon has a vision for how 5G and related technologies will bring an entirely new level of creation.
Así que espero que hoy Rockstar, bueno, Take-Two, su compañía madre, nos deleite con algún adelanto sobre Red Dead y también vamos a ver lo nuevo de GTA. Vamos a verlo para la nueva generación de consolas.
And needing inclusivity, an industry that is more diverse and more welcoming of new faces, new voices, and new perspectives. We are here to help make astonishing things happen in gaming and esports. But we're also here to listen and to learn. Gaming is a sector of bold thinkers, free spirits, and wide open creativity. Verizon wants to support that and empower it even further. So we look forward to working with you and playing with you for a long time to come. Thank you.
Welcome back to the E3 2021 Caster Desk. It's me, it's Jackie, and Jackie, 2 very interesting announcements there at the end for Verizon, right? Number 1, Verizon and Riot teaming up for the Game Changers Mentorship Program, huge. And then, of course, this Verizon Game Forward Scholarship. 5 historically Black colleges, 5 gamers at each one getting not only a scholarship for school, getting guaranteed internships at Verizon or game partners. It's a $1 million program. It's about building the tech sector and obviously getting women and minorities involved in this. How important is this, Jackie?
Honestly, they kept on echoing that we need action.
Yeah.
To create change, like we need to
Ahora sí,
start doing things like this.
lo tenemos ya. No, le digo que las expectativas pueden ser muchas. Hay que bajar un poco el hilo, pero ¿qué es lo que se puede traer o lo que se puede venir el día de hoy? Puede ser lo siguiente según un cartel de noticias. En este caso, chicos, podríamos recibir noticias sobre la actualización que va a llegar para Red Dead Redemption, que ya lo anunciaron. Así que puede ser algo súper importante que Rockstar tal vez ocupe esta plataforma como E3 para anunciar el movimiento de Red Dead, ¿no? Súper bueno. Lo que sí va a venir, y algo que ya está súper confirmado, sería un gameplay o un teaser trailer, no sé qué vamos a ver, pero orientado al GTA para la nueva generación, usando el motor gráfico de GTA 6. Bien, eso es lo que se ha filtrado. El nuevo GTA que se va a mostrar el día de hoy, que va a venir como, no sabemos si es venta o va a venir gratis, lo más seguro es que lo vendan porque Take-Two dinero siempre quiere. Va a vender, en este caso, la nueva versión de GTA 5 para la nueva generación de consolas, tanto para Xbox Series X o Series S, como para PlayStation 5 y obviamente PC, que tiene, bueno, una capacidad mucho mayor que nosotros, ¿no? Eso es lo que vamos a ver el día de hoy. Y tal vez, se imaginan, no sé, quiero soñar, ¿no? Quiero soñar un poquito que anuncien tal vez el remaster de Red Dead Redemption 1 con el motor gráfico de Red Dead 2. Pues algo sumamente genial, sumamente bueno que Rockstar quiera anunciar o usar el E3 como plataforma para anunciar el remaster de Red Dead Redemption 1. Puede ser algo genial y absolutamente un bombazo. Pero el Battlefield ayer lo mostraron, bro, y se ve espectacular. Pero hoy nos vamos a centrar, nos vamos a orientar a Take-Two y su gran conglomerado de videojuegos, ¿no? Como NBA 2K, como también GTA, Red Dead Redemption. También vi por ahí el The Other Worlds, también parece que viene parte de Take-Two, ¿ah? Pero voy a buscar un par de información para que vamos buscando, ¿vale?
And I would always win. I always compare it to like a fight club, you know, underground, like super secret.
A ver, noticias del evento.
It's blown up.
Hasta el momento estamos esperando nomás, chicos, ¿vale? En Chile es en unos 20 minutos más, en España bueno, dice Península y Baleares, 19 horas, España, Islas Canarias, 18 horas, Argentina, 14 horas, Bolivia, 13 horas. Bueno, y ahí sacan ustedes su diferencia de horario, ¿no? Pero aquí en Chile, en unos 20 minutos más. Vamos a poner cronómetro, ¿vale? ZN.
I'm just very excited to see more people being able to
si ponen algo para PC o... A ver, vamos a ver acá a las 59. Puta la mierda. Siempre lo cierro y se me olvida que no hay que cerrarlo. Soy una shit.
More so than even my friends who have full-time jobs. In the beginning it was like nerds play video games and jocks play sports, but now you have like NBA players and NFL players that are streaming and making videos.
People are now coming out about it, like come out your gamer closet, you know.
Lo que sí voy a poner, chicos, aquí es el chat, para que pueda ver lo que están comentando o hablando ustedes.
It's really started to mesh together, and it's created like my perfect little child. This sports mixed with video games is like pretty much been me my whole life, but now the world can see this.
I think that's what makes esports so compelling, is that there is an opportunity for anybody, no matter where you're from.
Anyone can be a gamer. You know, you're not capped by your physical attributes.
It's pretty easy for people in esports to gravitate towards underdog stories. I think people love those, and there's a reason, because I think many of us in esports have felt like underdogs ourselves.
Voy a pegar también lo otro, que sería el para que puedan, en este caso, ustedes se vayan.
Now here I am. I turned my passion into my job. I love my job every single day. I met my husband at a gaming event, and I made lifelong friends. And I found my place, and I found a family along the way, and I couldn't be more grateful.
I can't imagine with how far it's come to see the next couple phases. But I don't think the hype behind it is going to slow down anytime soon.
I mean,
lo que pasa es que está muy como que están
booming, just becoming so much bigger than before. New games releasing, more esports, more involvement and acceptance. Like, I think it's going great, and I don't think it'll stop growing anytime soon.
Lo veo como muy oscura. Puede que el texto esté al revés. Lo veo como muy oscuro, ¿no? Ahí sí. Bien, chicos, ahora sí voy a alargarlo un poquito para que puedan, en este caso, ustedes verse. Al fin y al cabo tenemos todavía mucho, ¿no? Y esto que está aquí, vamos a ponerlo un poquito para acá. Bien. Muchas gracias a la gente que se está suscribiendo. Vamos a ver y esperar que todo salga bien. Dicen que va a poder venir un nuevo Mafia. Puede ser también algo interesante.
As a part of Play for All, GameSpot will be bringing you the latest gaming news and announcements, interviews with developers, the biggest press conferences, and lots more. Play for All is our yearly
Me voy a comer
event
un yogur, chico, porque no he comido nada.
and announcements of E3 with charity live streams the following
¿Por qué te quitaste la barba? Porque una vez que me estaba molestando mucho, me dice que me veía viejo, y fue más que nada también por mi abuela. Mi abuela también me pidió que me cortara la barba. Así que es un tema, chicos. Ven, voy a pedir disculpas, pero me voy a comer un yogurcito, que no he tomado té. ¿Puedo jugar? ¿Qué?
源源不断地将最新鲜的游戏资讯第一时间带给全球中文游戏玩家。自成立以来，Gogo营地在全网
claro, también escuché que podía venir noticias de BioShock. ¿Ah? Viene ahí Pitbull, diciendo que BioShock también puede ser una parte importante del anuncio de Take-Two. Se te ve bien sin barba, ¿viste? No, si lo dice una mujer, tengo que hacerle caso, ¿no? Pues, bro, ¿qué vamos a hacerle, no? Voy a poner... Bueno, música no, ¿para qué? Si en este caso el evento está lleno de música y nos van a reventar con el copyright.
As the console wars continue to rage and next-gen consoles remain scarce.
Mira, lo que tratan de decir es que el Rockstar no tiene anunciado ningún nuevo videojuego, o sea, algo de GTA 6, olvídense, automáticamente olvídense de GTA 6, pero sí podemos ver, como les digo, algún remaster del primer Red Dead 1. Vamos a ver sí o sí algo sobre GTA, vamos a ver sí o sí algo de GTA sobre la nueva generación de consolas, fijo. Y lo que todos esperamos, ¿no? Alguna información sobre la actualización de Red Dead, o como también yo con alguna información, video, imagen, lo que sea sobre Red Dead Redemption 2 online o el Redemption 2, feliz, como también se anuncian el remaster de Red Dead Redemption 1 con el motor gráfico de Red Dead Redemption 2, absolutamente feliz, completamente pagado con todo, con esas dos cositas, con cualquiera de esas dos yo estoy absolutamente pagado. No sé, díganme ustedes qué es lo que esperan, pero seamos obviamente realistas, ¿no? No muy alta la expectativa. No es alto, ¿verdad? Se ha filtrado el tema de que puede que Rockstar esté trabajando en algún Red Dead Redemption 1 remaster. No es nada de otro mundo. Como también se ha filtrado, o no se ha filtrado, pero sabemos que va a haber una actualización de Red Dead Redemption 2. Ahora, que use la plataforma del E3 para anunciar y promocionar Red Dead Redemption Online con una nueva actualización es totalmente viable. O sea, no estamos levantándole el hype muy alto, es normal, digo yo.
You went over their house or they came over to your house. It was everybody in a room. In fact, I bet if you're a hardcore
tuve que pagar una apuesta
you're probably like me,
y me quedé calvo.
Your fondest memories
¿Qué problema hay?
Playing games were when you were playing with other people in the same room together. That's what we're all about. Now look, I'm going to be honest, for a lot of you out there watching this, I'm not going to impress you with our teraflops and gigawatts and screaming processor and incredible lifelike graphics. That's not what we're about. What we are is a really simple, fun party machine that you can bring out when maybe some of your non-gaming friends come over. Maybe you have a husband or a wife who isn't into gaming as much as you are. Maybe grandma comes over and you want to play a simple motion control game or a card game or a board game, dice, whatever it is. See, all of our games are built around fun and simplicity. That's the most important thing for us, and gathering people in a room together to do it. Here at Intellivision, we've assembled an incredible, passionate team of game makers who have over 600 years experience making some of your favorite games. Everything we do, we focus on bringing people together and having simple fun.
Ya chicos, disculpen que estaba comiendo un yogur. Si no, me voy a desmayar cuando venga el anuncio de Red Dead Redemption 3. No, seamos realistas. No creo que venga un anuncio de Red Dead Redemption 3, ¿ah? Bien chicos, recuerden que el internet el día de ayer estaba como en el culo. Así que tengo preparado, ahora lo estamos viendo directamente desde la Xbox, ya, estoy viendo directamente desde la Xbox, transmitiendo, creo que va mejor, pero en el caso que falle, porque ahí empezó a fallar, no sé si en realidad había mucha gente o estábamos colapsando, en caso que falle, tengo abierto el PC y es solamente pum, cambiar y entramos con el otro dispositivo, ¿vale? ¿Por qué? Porque este mundo es así, chicos, ¿vale? Hay que estar preparado en caso de cualquier mierda. Ustedes saben que acá vivimos en un país tercermundista y no podemos esperar mucho, ¿no? Lo importante es que me digan que el directo vaya bien. Tanto la imagen como el sonido me importa demasiado, que me puedan corroborar, ¿vale? Pero en unos 8 minutos 45 segundos deberíamos tener lista la información sobre Take-Two y su conferencia, ¿vale? No, Red Dead Redemption 3 va a salir por lo menos en unos 8 años más, 10 años, como dicen algunos.
I can go over your house, dock it in your system, and because it recognizes that it's my controller, we can now play all of my games that I own on your system.
Tengo una luz que es inteligente, así que voy a poner, tal vez, voy a bajarle un poco la intensidad porque estoy muy blanco.
So once you're done with your controller and your game's over, you just dock it right back into the base and it charges for you.
O igual podemos ponerle luces de colores.
We have interactive LED lighting all throughout the console itself,
me gusta.
the base and
roja.
All of the controllers. We also have RFID
azul.
built throughout the entire console, which means you can get a gift card, for example, tap it on the system, and it shows
con la
up.
blanca, ¿no? ¿Vale?
You know what's really cool about having the focus
Bien.
people playing
Estoy viendo acá, visto por acá. Let's go, chicos, let's go.
Somebody can pick up a controller and just hit the ship they want and go right into the game at any point. Now, for all you collectors out there, you'll be happy to know that not only can you download games digitally, but we also have physical media.
Lo que sí quiero probar el otro,
releasing more information about that later this year.
¿vale?
Now, here's something I think a lot of gamers are going to appreciate. We don't allow any loot boxes.
Como lo digo, estoy ultra mega preparado en caso que falle alguno de estos.
Paid downloadable content, but
Voy a
what we
cortar
do have is an online leaderboard system for most of our games.
Bien.
Where you can go in there and check your scores
Y
against
también voy a hablar
your
con este que está
state, your
aquí.
country, the world,
YouTube.
or the month, the year,
Y
and
sería
of all
la
time.
conferencia
And
de
those scores
E3.
tie into our achievements as
Vamos a tenerlo
well.
visto, ¿vale?
So if you
En
have
caso
the
que
high
falle
score
alguno,
at the end of the month
hay que
of
estar
your
súper preparado.
country, we're gonna email your certificate that you
Porque
can
no me
go
va a pasar lo
print
mismo que
out
pasó
and
ayer.
hang on your wall. Now, as we all know, the most important part of any video game system are the
Bien. Vamos a probar esto al tiro. Vamos a tirar este para acá. Este para acá. Este sería... ¿Este igual se escucha? ¿O no se escucha? Este no se escucha. Este no se escucha, ¿no es cierto? Este se escucha, ¿no? Este se escucha. Y ahí se escucha ya. Entonces este va a ser el de respaldo, ¿vale? Va a ser el de respaldo que lo vamos a tener acá. Voy a estar conectándolo aquí en el... Voy a tenerlo acá en el computador. Pero originalmente vamos a ir con este.
Now, our original
Bien.
IP
Estamos.
category contains brand new games that we've created, a lot of times around our unique controller. Some of those games are platformers like Finnegan Fox, Bomb Squad, Space Strikers, Flying Tigers, and we even got the original Echo the Dolphin team to create our new title called Dolphin Quest. We even take more modern games and add exclusive co-op modes. Games like Rigid Force Redux Enhanced and Dino Blaster. Now, our sports and recreational category not only has big sports like Major League Baseball and soccer, but also recreational sports like cornhole, skiing, pool, and many more. Now, our casual category contains many party games, dice games, board games, card games, things like spades, emoji charades, and even award-winning board games like Blank Slate, Telestrations, and Ink and Gold. Now, I've already mentioned some really big partnerships and licenses like Major League Baseball and Sesame Street, but we have even more, including things like Mattel Hot Wheels, Harlem Globetrotters, and so much more. Now, we've previously announced that we're doing a brand new exclusive Earthworm Jim game for Intellivision. And we got the
La esperanza es lo último que se pierde, amigos.
We wanted to do something special, so we're going to give away 3 of these new prints. All of the team members signed it. All you have to do is email cow@intellivision.com with the subject
La verdad es que
line,
no veo mucha esperanza, como dicen algunos.
and then we'll announce 3 winners at the end of the month.
Como dicen algunos no tienen esperanzas, otros sí, la esperanza lo último que se pierde, como dicen algunos. Pero el tema va, chicos, de que Rockstar ha anunciado que juegos nuevos no va a haber. O sea, un GTA 6 no lo van a ver. El día de hoy no lo van a ver. Pero lo que sí creemos que lo más posible es que venga algo sobre NBA 2K, lo más seguro 2022. Se actualiza la plantilla nada más, ¿no? Como también el hecho de la nueva generación para GTA 6. O sea, mucha gente está esperando GTA 6 para la nueva generación de consolas. Yo en lo personal no, porque no es algo que me motive, pero venga. Vamos a tenerlo ahí por si acaso. Bien, tengo listo en este caso el video de aquí. Bien. Voy para acá y vamos viendo aquí también. Red Dead Redemption 3 no lo creo, chicos, ¿vale? Seamos realistas, tampoco pidamos que se venga el mundo abajo, porque no va a ser así. Pero tranquilos, ¿vale?
Check those boxes for me. You know, I owned an old Intellivision, a ColecoVision. You know, like I had those as a kid. My uncle would bring them in and we'll play games together. It was always a fun time. It was just
me conformo si agregan solamente algo a Red Dead Redemption.
This is your second chance. Yeah, you're gonna get another opportunity of doing it. But I do like the idea behind it, and I also like too, like, there's an opportunity here.
Yo creo que estás un poco ahí conformándote con muy poco, ¿ah?
And make something super unique on a platform that
bueno, voy a poner un gorrito de el Grande Auto, obviamente. Bueno, no tengo ninguno de Red Dead. Créeme que he buscado y no hay ninguno. Me quiero cortar las malditas pelotas.
Oh my gosh, my brother and I used to mess with that all the time on Super Nintendo.
La que no se veía la calva, ¿no? Nunca apuesten en partidos de fútbol. Y menos si tiene que ver con su cabello, chicos, ¿vale? Porque lo pueden perder.
Very true. Yeah.
I was gonna say it looks like a phone, but it's kind of like a 2001 iPod. But you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
with the
pretty
dial.
simple,
Yeah, with the dial.
right? Yeah. And I just think it'd be very easy for someone to pick up, and the games are also very accessible as well. So I think that this is something I could play with my parents. All I can think of is
Hermosa la gorra soltera. No.
my dad tried to play Wario, and that was a slower character, and he was
bonita, ¿no?
it was a struggle.
Yeah,
it was a struggle.
Yeah, I understand.
Maybe he could do better with the Amico.
Está guapa.
So for me, what stood out was definitely Earthworm Jim, and then definitely accessibility.
Yeah, that's the whole thing with it, right? And again, I like the idea that they're presenting something different at the end there. Tommy talking about the fact that we don't look at other people as competition because they're clearly in a different market, right? It reminds me how I talk about.
Venga, chicos, tenemos. Uy, ya estamos llegando. Estamos llegando, chicos. Estamos llegando ya. Debemos tener ya en cualquier momento algún anuncio.
I think obviously talking about it being the party machine is an excellent idea, but then also the fact that I really it resonated with me the controller that is connected to your game, so that if you do have a friend who had this, that if you walked over and put your controller into
that was really cool.
All the games you own, you'd be able to play on their system.
The dice is really
2K de Take-Two, sí. De Take-Two Interactive.
Definitely on purpose giving us very many callbacks to the Wii.
Yeah.
When I saw the little girl bowling, I was like,
¿En qué partido apostaste? En el de Chile-Bolivia. Mira, fui tan creído que dije ganamos. O sea, ni empate, no, ganamos. Y él ahora me dijo, no, y si yo empato o gano, vale, te doy la mano. Perdí.
Where, let's be real, like having couch co-op, that's unrivaled. Like, we need more couch co-op games. Look, I love online. I love online, but more couch co-op.
Ya, chicos, ya estamos en el tiempo. Vamos a ocultar esto y en cualquier momento iremos a tener noticias.
A lot of the big name game companies moving forward as well.
Yeah. I love the idea too of that if you are the top in your country or whatever, at the end of the month they send you a certificate to print.
That's cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like very Twin Galaxies type vibe. I like that a lot. Yeah.
But yeah, cornhole. They make a cornhole game, so that's all we.
That's all you need. Cornhole, baby.
Ladies and gentlemen, the year was 1995, and the Electronic Entertainment Expo debuted for the first time.
Hoy, ¿qué les pareció la conferencia de ayer, chicos? Me gustaría que me dijeran qué les pareció la conferencia de ayer de Xbox y Bethesda. ¿Qué nota le ponen? ¿Qué nota le ponen? Ahí quiero que pongan nota en la conferencia de Xbox. Bueno, las personas que lo vieron, yo lo estábamos viendo y se cortó la luz. Me corto las malditas pelotas, se cortó justo la luz. ¡Ey! El primer E3 del 1995. Pónganme nota.
No wonder that E3 continued to live on after its very first show. The show was massive. There was a surprise console launch. You could get a Killer Instinct character tattoo while you played Game Boy. You could try out not one, but 3 VR headsets. And this is all in 1995. So let's take a look through a sometimes 4x3 lens at what the first ever E3 was like. May 11th through 13th, 1995, over 55,000 industry, retail, and press attended the debut Electronics Entertainment Expo.
Desde 10, Forza 5 está de huevos. Nota 10, menos 5. Desde 10, 10 de 10.
This would be the only
Lo mejor fue Halo.
Booth, but it came in big and even showed off a VR peripheral that was still in
La de
development.
PC fue más
You
fome.
could meet Rayman and try out his new game. This was one of the first times you could get your
Tanto
hands
como
on
un
a game
10,
that would
dicen.
eventually become a 45-game series. There's tons to check out at this booth, including Primal
4
Rage, a
de
violent
5.
dinosaur fighting game. White Men
¿Ya?
Can't Jump,
O
a
sea,
basketball
está hablando como de un 8, un 8, 9, según lo que dice Willy.
virtual light machine.
Estuvo muy buena la conferencia, dice Vianney. 20 de 10, Dios. El Black Ford y 7 de 10. Sí, el Black Ford Blood se ve, pero espectacular, chicos, ¿ah? Creo que podemos hacer cosas muy guapas con este juego, pero sí o sí, chicos, sí o sí me voy a comprar el Battlefield 2042 porque se ve espectacular y yo soy un puto maníaco de Battlefield. O sea, lo juego, me gusta, pero no soy tan fanático como para jugar. Pero Battlefield 5, ya el 2042, se ve espectacular. Yo creo que Battlefield 5 fue una de mis grandes decepciones. No sé, pero Battlefield, el primer Battlefield, el 1, el de la Primera Guerra Mundial, me encantó, lo jugué un montonazo. Y yo creo que voy sí o sí por Battlefield 2042 con preventa, chicos, ¿vale? Para jugar la beta con la gente que quiera. Aparte que va a tener crossplay, o sea, vamos a poder jugar en Xbox, como de Play 4, como de PC. O sea, vamos a ser una muy buena comunidad y creo que podemos hacer cosas muy guapas. Sí, bueno, si quieren también. Si no les gusta el juego,
Sega's
Venga.
press conference was all about their new system, the Sega
Un
Saturn.
7 dice
And they
Pitbull.
even showed off
El mini refrigerador estuvo muy guapo. Bueno, lamentablemente yo lo compraría, pero es solamente en Estados Unidos. No se puede comprar vía Latinoamérica o España si es que llega, ¿no? Pero aquí en Latinoamérica, olvídenlo.
It's the sphincter.
And Sega even had the first, and it's available now, with the surprise announcement that the Sega Saturn is now available in stores.
We started our rollout of Sega Saturn yesterday.
Months before their original release date. Then they dropped the price and
Bien,
the new
estoy acá
tagline.
con... Tengo listo, chicos. Fe y esperanza para todos.
Presentation, it might surprise you that while Keanu Reeves made a more than memorable
Keanu
appearance
Reeves.
at E3 2019, he made his actual
You
first
are
appearance
amazing.
as a key
You
visual
are
in Sony's
amazing,
opening
bitch.
sizzle in 1995. And this very 90s sizzle was pretty important because up until that point, Sony was still widely known as a tech company and hadn't released the PlayStation yet, at least not in the US. We were seeing the birth of a major gaming publisher and system through cheeky slides and clip.
Tenía la madre de las tumbadas. Bueno, hice un video hace poco. Yo juego con VPN, ¿vale? Yo tengo una VPN, tanto en la Play como en la Xbox. Tengo un código de DNS diferente, protegido por VPN Express. De hecho, ahora streameo con VPN para evitar que me tumben la conexión. Así que yo por lo menos, en base a lo que es DNS y VPN, yo la tengo cambiada y pago una suscripción anual para evitar todo este temita. Bueno, nos van a tumbar la conexión a la gente que juega normal, a la gente que juega bien, la juega mal, da lo mismo. Pero queremos disfrutar del juego, y eso es lo que queremos, disfrutar todos aquí el juego.
Discussing forgery systems and piracy that was plaguing the industry at the time. But what they lacked in any formal announcement,
Core tendrá que sacar algo muy gordo para hacerle la sombra a Battlefield. De que Battlefield bueno, dentro de los años se ha caracterizado de uno de los juegos en línea más jugados, ¿no? El Battlefield 4 dicen que en realidad la reventó en su oportunidad. Yo no lo alcanzo a jugar, yo jugué solamente el Modern Warfare 3. El 4 no lo alcanzo a jugar, lo tengo, pero no lo jugué. Y después salté al Battlefield 1, que en realidad me encantó el Battlefield 1 con el nuevo motor, el Frostbite. Espectacular, weón. Espectacular. Sencillamente espectacular Battlefield 1, chicos, de verdad, espectacular. Pero se cayó mucho con Battlefield 5. Se cayó mucho. Yo creo que quisieron abarcar mucho y... no sé.
First E3 in 1995, we wound up showing off an early version of the very first Unreal game. A lot of people who know and use the Unreal Engine don't necessarily know that there's a game that actually launched everything behind all of it. And I remember being there with Mark Rain, and he yells out, "Miyamoto's checking out Unreal." Shigeru Miyamoto, my hero, like my idol, who's made so many games that have just fascinated me throughout my entire life from my childhood. And I remember going over there and shaking and giving him a demo of the game and trying to show him why this game is unique, you know, with weapons that can charge up and players that can dodge and alternate fires and enemy AI that can track you down no matter where you were.
Todavía hay nada, chicos, tenemos confirmación en unos 10 minutos más, debería comenzar la conferencia de Take-Two y vamos a estar atentos, ¿vale?
Wow. 1995.
¡Vamos!
299.
¡Vamos!
You know what I mean? Killed the Saturn in its tracks. And so that's
Vamos a ver un juego inédito.
1995.
Sí o sí, me comentaron que era filtración garantizada, chicos. Un juego inédito respecto a lo que se trata de GTA V para la nueva generación de consolas. ¡Wow! Remasterizado de GTA V, es un juego que nunca hemos visto. Una IP totalmente nueva de parte de Rockstar Games. Va a salir solamente ahora este año, así que atentos, atentos. GTA V.
So then, you know, she ended up telling my father, hey, you got to go get him a Sega Genesis. She took the credit for it, by the way. Boss mom. Shout out to you, mom. And yeah, and then, you know, I had the Sega Genesis. But the only game I had for like the longest time was Sonic Pinball or Spinball.
Spinball.
So and that was like one of my favorite Sonic games.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, I was a Sega Master System.
Por favor, que no se corte la luz, que no se caiga el internet. Ayer se cayó el internet cuando estábamos en directo. Después que volvió el internet, estábamos en directo. ¿Qué pasó? ¡Pum!
I bought a Saturn.
I had a Saturn.
Se cortó la luz. Fue una maldita
One
shit.
of the most underrated platformer games ever. Clockwork Knight, so good.
Jackie, I feel like I don't need to ask.
You want to know what's funny? So actually, the first console we ever got was a Super Nintendo, and it is one of the most vivid memories of my life. Actually, I remember my dad came in with the box, and my brother and I were chasing after him. We're like, "What is this? What is this?" And it was this little TV.
Sí, Elden Ring se ve pero espectacular, chicos. Puede ser una muy buena opción también para sumar aquí al canal. También lo voy a comprar. Elden Ring, Battlefield 2042, también lo voy a comprar. Tal vez lo compre en algún pack. No sé si puede ser el Gold. No me voy a gastar tampoco $100. Pero tal vez me compre un pack de anticipado, sí, con algunas cositas. Y el Elden Ring lo voy a comprar sí o sí, chicos, sí o sí. Ayer lo más seguro es que mi señora vino, cortó el switch de la luz y nos cortó todo. A lo mejor estaba enojado. Digo yo, ¿no?
My brother and I played it repeatedly. Sure. And Robo's theme was my ringtone for probably 10 years. And then I got an iPhone and I was like, wait, you can't make a ringtone for these? Or can you?
Me confirman si todo va excelente, si todo va bien, tanto imagen como sonido, por favor.
Resonated with me so much. I was a weirdo. I played like Secret of Mana and Terra Enigma and Illusion of Gaia, but those were like heavy, dark stories for 7- and 8-year-olds to be taken in. So my brother and I are like, you know, we went into the Incan ruins and we found this corpse, and it was like, please tell my family that I shouldn't have gone out searching for treasure, and I abandoned them. And my brother and I are like crying, you know. But I do think that these games made me the person that I am today and made my brother the person that he was. I'm sorry, I don't mean to get emotional, but I think we can all say that.
Bien, chicos, ya en cualquier momento empieza. En cualquier momento empieza.
Don't sleep on them, people. Don't sleep on them. They got really, really amazing content. So.
Can I see the box?
Of course, I know. I'm like.
I don't think I've ever.
Yeah, do you want to put on white gloves before you handle it?
I feel like I should. I mean, like I've never actually held a Chrono Trigger box.
I know.
I saw one in Tokyo in Akihabara. I walked around for a little bit and I saw one there and I asked the guy if I can grab it. He looked at me, said I was crazy, and then I left.
No, los subtítulos no van a, no se pueden cambiar, bro. No tienen traducción.
Greg, you can hold it too. I mean, I know this.
A ver, y lo de PC.
Like when that guy shows the Woodstock ticket and tears it in half. I'm not touching that. I'm not ending up on live stream fails.
Oh my god, I love it. But I feel like you can just feel the energy like coming off of the game. You know
and it was one of the greatest RPGs.
I know, seriously.
No tienen traducción, chicos.
It's still one of the greatest RPGs, like top 5, I think.
Oh, easily in my top 5. What's in your top 5, y'all?
I want to say real quick that, and this is a reformed Sega kid speaking, that like video games made me who I am today.
No hay.
My entire life, my entire career, my entire passion.
¿Cómo se llama disponibilidad de subtítulos?
But like, I always look so longingly at people who are Nintendo kids. Because you have, like, because I feel like you guys had a different education. And that's not to say Sega didn't, but like, I was a dumb kid. No one else liked video games as much as I did. So I was like just playing licensed stuff all the time.
Bueno, igual entiendo algo de inglés, así que algo por lo menos le voy a poder traducir. Panchex es mucho más expedito que yo. Por eso lo invité el día de ayer, pero me dejó colgado.
Dude, I love Streets of Rage. Me and Mike Boylan, I remember that on Genesis sitting there. I remember having the blood in Mortal Kombat being super stoked.
Battletoads versus Double Dragon, Sega Genesis. That game was freaking impossible.
Dejen su like, chicos. Que empieza esto.
Big shout out to my buddy Sancho West, who just finished Lion King recently on stream.
Sancho West is my buddy.
Oh, okay. Well, he's actually my friend, but
he's like a
Dejen su like, chicos.
Darn it, Sancho, I believed in you.
I won. It's all me. I won. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, what are your favorite 90s games? Let us know with the hashtag E3 2021 so we can get you up on screen. But still to come here on the E3 stage, we've got our indie showcase, Capcom, and so much more. The party's just getting started, so don't go anywhere.
¡Vamos! Ya debería empezar, ¿ah? Debería empezar, chicos. ¡Let's go! Se viene, ¿eh? Estoy convencido, se viene algo bueno. Lo bueno en el aire, lo bueno en el aire.
篝火营地是中国领先的游戏媒体，创立于2018年，致力于为全世界的中文游戏玩家提供专业、精准、迅速的资讯情报。篝火营地立足于中国，与多家国际一流游戏媒体同行达成正式内容合作关系，源源不断地将最新鲜的游戏资讯第一时间带给全球中文游戏玩家。自成立以来，篝火营地在全网的内容浏览量已经超过5亿，服务了数百万读者和玩家。
Estoy nervioso, chicos. Espero que Rockstar que nos añade cualquier cosa de Red Dead. Estoy feliz. Ya sea un avance de la nueva actualización, ya sea un remaster de Red Dead Redemption 1. Pero bueno, yo estaría mojado, pero literalmente húmedo, si anuncian un remaster de Red Dead Redemption 1. Literalmente, ¿ah? Pero algo tiene que mostrar de Red Dead, chicos. No puede dejarlo botado simplemente. Bueno, conociendo a Rockstar.
As a part of Play for All, GameSpot will be bringing you the latest gaming news and announcements, interviews with developers, the biggest press conferences, and lots more. Play for All is our yearly online event that combines the excitement and announcements of E3 with charity live streams the following week with lots of special guests who are going to help us raise money for gamers. So join us in June for E3 and Play for All on GameSpot.com, YouTube.com/GameSpot, Twitch.tv/GameSpot, and as a part of E3's official broadcast. See you then.
I remember this one time I was at E3 on sitting there for lunch, and we were just sitting there eating. We talked business, then we start talking games. I remember talking about Assassin's Creed, and I was saying how I snuck in the room, I climbed on the wall. Then I jumped down, I took the knife, and I stabbed the person in the back. I looked over to my left, and I saw these people talk, they were talking, then they stopped listening, like, oh my God, what is he talking about? He just talking about killing somebody? I said, it's a video game. They're like, oh, okay. I was like, man, these people thought I killed somebody. They thought I was a hitman. I was like, oh, this is too funny.
Thanks to our sponsors at DoorDash. Get more from your neighborhood, from restaurants and convenience to grocery.
Ay, me pica el cuerpo, me pica el cuerpo.
All right, folks. Well, we are back here at E3 2021. And, here's the truth, guys. Sometimes the most difficult discussions, are the ones that you need to have the most. And with the gaming community already being such a diverse place, it's time for the creative space to reflect that. So here's take 2 with an important discussion on the necessity of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the corporate responsibility to honor those things.
Vamos. Vamos.
Hello, I'm Alan Lewis, Vice President of Corporate Communications and Public Affairs for Take-Two Interactive. Thank you for joining us today and welcome to Virtual E3 2021. Take-Two, like many organizations, is deeply committed to and actively involved in numerous initiatives to enhance diversity, equity, and inclusion within our society and industry. Affecting meaningful, sustainable change is a continuous process, and there is no one solution that can achieve that goal. We believe that to enact change, especially for those in underserved and underrepresented communities, there needs to be a continuum of activism and engagement with educational programs serving as its core foundation. Beginning with children in elementary school, we have the ability to light a spark of creativity, intellectual curiosity, and wonder that can last a lifetime. Continuing through middle and high school, we can support and nurture students during their formative years and increase the depth of their skills that can provide a pathway to attending one of the 400 plus colleges and universities within the United States that offer degrees in game design. Providing opportunities to attend these academic institutions, including need-based financial support, is also a critical component to helping end generational cycles of inequality. And while pursuing their creative and technical degrees, students can learn firsthand from industry leaders that share their experience, acumen, and passion through one-on-one mentoring and internships at our organization.
Súper importante esto, ¿ah?
Together, if our industry can execute this continuum, we will have invested meaningfully in the lives of youth
Que se cae este weón, muéstrame algo.
more than a decade before they begin their professional journey. Diversity and inclusion make us a better industry.
Hablando de la inclusión, que quiere que en este caso que Take-Two es una empresa que empieza en la ciudadanía. Mentira, si quieren plata estos weones. Dame contenido Red Dead y te doy plata, te doy dinero, te doy tu oro. No hay problema. Vamos.
Today, we have brought together a few of our important partners who will share their organization's mission and role in this endeavor, as well as their insights on how we as an industry can continue to take these important steps together for the future. We hope that you find their work as inspiring as we do. It is now my pleasure to turn things over to my colleague, Tony Lagans, Director of Diversity and Inclusion for 2K, who will be the moderator for today's discussion.
Thanks, Alan. It's my pleasure to be your moderator for today's
NBA
session.
2K.
Before we begin, I'd like to introduce my esteemed panelists today. We're going to start off with Jim Huntley. Jim Huntley is currently the professor and head of marketing at USC. Jim is a faculty advisor, and he's an executive producer for USC Games Expo and a co-founding partner of PacU Gaming. Next, we have Susanna Pollock. Susanna is the president of Games for Change, which is a nonprofit that empowers game creators and social innovators to drive real-world impact through games and immersive media. Next to Susanna, we have Gordon Bellamy. Gordon is a professor of practice of cinematographic arts at USC. He is also the head of USC Bridge Incubator, which is a program that helps to cultivate the next generation of leaders in the video game industry. And last, next to Gordon, we have Layla Shabir. Layla is the founder of Girls Make Games, which offers a series of summer camps, workshops, and game jams designed to inspire the next generation of designers, creators, and engineers. Welcome to all of you, great panelists, and thank you so much for joining our important discussion today. Now, I'd like to dive right in here, and Jim, I'm going to start with you. In Alan's opening, he mentioned
yo no quiero una conferencia de personas, weón. No quiero escuchar a nadie. Muéstrame algo sobre los juegos. Dios.
And inclusion it is playing in the video game industry today. So before we get into the big concepts that we're talking about here, let's just break some things down for our viewers. Jim, can you help us understand and talk about equity and diversity and why it's so important in the conversation about the video game industry?
Están hablando de la inclusión y la diversidad que existe, que tiene que existir entre cada una de las personas, toda esa mierda, pero si eso ya está, no me interesa.
Very, very much over time. But I think the biggest change that people are seeing in the last 2 to 3 years are the lack of it in the modern era and the rationale that there's no excuse behind not having better equity and diversity in the industry from here on out. So what I like about working with companies like Take-Two and some other companies that have reached out to me about an initiative we started called the Gerald A. Lawson Endowment Fund is that companies are now looking to invest in getting more diversity in their ranks and getting more stories told from different points of view.
I appreciate that. That's great conversation there. So let's talk about just kind of the inequities and why is it so important to have these conversations. Let's talk about that whole aspect and just getting people in the right mindset to understand what's available for them as majors in this industry. Jim, just talk to us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So a lot of what we've been focusing on from a USC Games perspective is making sure that students of color, Black and Indigenous students in particular, because they have the least amount of representation within our industry out of all the various demographic groups. We've been focusing on scholarships, but the challenge that we have, and I think the challenge that society and the industry has, is it starts earlier than that. There's a phrase from, I can't remember who to attribute to, but there's a phrase that he used that I remember saying, the inequities of our past pay dividends into the future. And that sticks with me because
Jim, yo entiendo que tú eres una persona muy sociable y que tienes un amplio espectro de criterios sobre lo que es la diversidad, la inclusión. Yo lo entiendo, pero muéstrame algo de juegos, ¿ya? Por favor, videojuegos. Por último, muéstrame GTA. Muéstrame GTA. Lo hemos visto 20 millones de veces, pero muéstrame GTA. No quiero escucharte hablar. Con todo respeto. No quiero escucharte hablar.
Get into some of these slots in game design and not being able to get them gets wider and wider. So we need to do a better job as a society, and we are willing to do our part and help work with companies like Take-Two to lead the vanguard on how do we get students some opportunity from grade school? Like, how do we make sure they can see this as an option? Because when I, as a black man, get in front of a small group of grade school students,
vamos a hacer igual que el antes inferno. Abandonar toda esperanza. Todo aquel que entra a este directo, que abandone toda esperanza por parte de Rockstar. No vamos a ver nada más.
But it's also important to make sure that the students who look like us, who are 20 years, 30 years, 40 years behind us, also have the opportunities that we didn't in some cases to get a job in this industry.
Yes, thank you so much for your insight. So important there. Susanna, that really kind of speaks to a lot of the great work that you're doing in helping to reach this underserved community. Can you talk about the work that Games for Change is doing?
Sure. So, our mission, as you said earlier, is to empower game designers and social innovators, right? To use games for social change. And we see our work with younger people as really inspiring the next generation, right? And so just what Jim was saying, like we're going as young as sixth grade, sometimes fifth grade, but trying to give young people, and mostly in Title I schools, so those are schools that qualify for free lunches, which often are representing the underserved communities, an opportunity to
Alerta comunista llegada a la sala.
Deeply into this gaming industry, this experience they all love to do, and help them become creators of this content, not just consumers. And we've been finding that it's a program that we've been running called the Games for Change Student Challenge. We've been running it for the past 6 years. We've reached over 30,000 young people in middle and high school.
Esta gente sabrá que la E3 significa Electronic Games, del tercer mundo, que somos videojugadores, que el público orientado a este evento son gente que le gustan los videojuegos, no la diversidad. No digo que está mal o que está bien, no tengo nada contra eso, pero en serio, vaya a la E3, Take-Two, a presentar esto. ¿En serio? Haces un directo y habla de la diversidad, no sé, en otro canal de YouTube. No vengáis a la E3 a decir esto. No vengas.
They see a future for themselves and they see an opportunity, a pathway for them. And part of our program, an important part of it, is this idea of mentoring, and mentoring from near peers and also from people from the community. So as Jim says, it's so important they see themselves in the people that are coming to speak to them. So when we're in Los Angeles, for example, we can reach out to USC Games for game design students to come and speak to the kids, that we can bring people in from Riot or Activision or from Take-Two to come in and say, yes, this is what I do, and this is something for you. And we do the same thing in New York, and working in Atlanta and Detroit. And I can tell you that students are coming back year on year, and we're seeing them use this program as like their college essay, or they're building their portfolio. And I love the idea that, if we can get to them at a young age, they spend their summers with Layla at Girls Make Games, and then they
literalmente están diciendo, no tenemos ningún videojuego preparado, ningún DLC para Red Dead, ningún GTA 5 para nueva generación, nada.
And so that's that role and what we hope to inspire.
I love what you said there, Suzanne. There's so many little nuggets that you just pulled out there. The different avenues you can have and career pathways there are in the gaming industry. Just the activity that you can have in terms of having mentorship and role models and representation, and just, having good gamers out there. So there's so many things that you talked about that I want to hit on. Let's just pull Layla into this conversation and just talk about the idea of mentorship and representation. Layla, talk about the workshops and the summer programs that you offer to girls. How does that help to increase the representation and the mentorship aspects that we've talked about?
Thanks so much for having me. I was on mute. This is 2021, still going on mute. But like Susanna said, I think it's really important to kind of pass that baton on. And I think we see this summer after summer, having created a place that's, you know, for girls. We get this question a lot, why do you need a space that's just for girls? There's so many programs out there that are open to everyone. But I think it's just so important to create that space because like Jim talked about, it's so important to see people who are like yourselves. For many of the girls that come to camp, this is their first time
misma. Quiero que me muestres juegos, hija. Estás en la
they've
E3.
been so accustomed to kind of being the only girl on their robotics team or the only girl that went to a coding camp with their brother. And the girl who's fighting her brothers for you know the Xbox controller. So those are very common themes and stories. And I think it's important to kind of tie in not just the mentorship, but also the community. It's very important to walk into a room and feel like you're not an outsider. And the best way to do that is to show many more faces that look just like you. It's really validating to walk away, not just with the technical skills, but to feel like these are people that I'm gonna, you know, kind of encounter in 10, 15 years and we'll be like professionals because right now we're just kids making games, but we'll be professionals in a few years. And 7 years out for Girls Make Games, we're finally starting to see, you know, these girls kind of make plans together to go to college and this year, I would say like the first time we got in like dozens of emails from families saying, you know, my daughter is now thinking of college and how do we get this portfolio going? How do we set that up? So I think touching on Jim's point too, there's so many challenges that, you know, people have to go through just to get everything right. You shouldn't have to rely on luck so much. So if you look at the women who are now excelling and thriving in the
Vamos
industry,
dejando el like, chicos, por favor, ¿vale? Para apoyar un poco el canal. Se agradece un montonazo.
To finally end up in the industry, many of whom ended up
Yo sé que no le gusta el directo porque en realidad están hablando pura mierda, así eso yo lo entiendo. Pero no le cobren las deudas a este pobre youtuber sobre la mierda de Take-Two que está presentando.
Talking about what we're doing and how do we pass our students on from, you know, we start as young as 8, getting them onto the programs and then passing them on to the student challenge and then on to USC and then finally on to the industry. I think that's basically the magic formula to solving the problem that we're talking about today.
Yes, thank you for hitting on that pipeline challenge and actually solution. You really clearly laid it out there for us. I really, really enjoy that. And something else you mentioned is just like really opening this world of gaming to new, diverse, a pool and a spectrum of gamers. And how do we create those real pathways back into the gaming industry? Gordon, you've done a lot of work in just helping to create value where value was not seen in places in the gaming industry, specifically for the gay gaming professionals. Can you talk about how the representation and widening the spectrum of what gaming professional looks like and how your company and your role really accomplishes that?
Sure. So we have a mission which is focused on
education, gaming professionals. Están hablando que tienen un club profesional de gays. ¿Y eso qué importa, hermano? Que sean gays. ¿Qué importa que sean gays? Eso no es problema.
Of belonging, of being default. And I know that people in their uniqueness do a lot of mental, socioeconomic, and sometimes social gymnastics before they get to be as good as they are. Before they get a chance to participate in this panel or participate in our industry by and large. And I think the work that we all share is trying to disrupt some of those mental gymnastics, socioeconomic gymnastics, social gymnastics that young women, people of color, indigenous people, neurodiverse people need to do in order to be as great as they are, you know, to belong, you know, in the space. And sort of hearing, you know, what Layla's speaking to of a cohort, right, that treats each other as default, and where are we going to go now together, collectively? The program, you know, Jim's putting in place, right, with the endowment honoring Lawson, where there's going to be cohorts of Black and Indigenous people, right, growing together. And the work that Susanna, you've been doing since before it was cool. Okay, you were changing games, you know, making that $1 out of 15 cents before all of us. all of that work.
Chicos, de verdad que yo estoy...
And with the support of corporations
Yo no sé qué decirles, de verdad. Yo estoy igual o peor que ustedes. Porque yo estoy en directo, ustedes me están viendo ver esta mierda.
We have a scholars program in partnership with Take Two.
No sé, la verdad que me gustaría decirle de una mejor manera, decir que en realidad viene algo mejor. Pero están hablando juegos, las mujeres hacen juegos, los jugadores profesionales que son gay, una niña que falta todavía la niña de Toriyama. Pero en realidad, lo que yo no comprendo de estos chicos, lo que no comprendo es que estamos en la E3, donde vienen las compañías a mostrar sus videojuegos, lo que viene, lo que están preparando para promocionar las consolas y todo ese tema. Take-Two, como empresa, tiene un montón de videojuegos relacionados, como Bioshock, como NBA 2K, como GTA, como Red Dead Redemption, y de ahí una pila de juegos más asociados a su marca. Y vienes a la E3 a mostrar esto. Es que eso no me cuadra. ¿Para qué vienes? ¿Para qué vienes? ¿Para qué se anotan? ¿Para qué vienen a la conferencia de E3 a mostrar esto? Si yo no estoy en contra de que los jugadores sean gay o que la otra sea republicana y otra sea mujer, a mí eso no me importa, lo respeto. Pero yo no vengo a ver esto. ¿De verdad? La gente que ronda este universo de lo que estamos viendo en este momento, la gente que espera este evento durante años, es hablar de videojuegos, de consolas, de lanzamientos. De eso viene. Eso es lo que esperan ver, lo que esperan escuchar. No hablar de esto. Y eso es lo que yo estoy en contra. ¿De verdad? No entiendo.
I appreciate that. Yes, exactly what you're saying. There's so much more that all of us can be doing. The accountability piece is really very important, Gordon. Thank you for bringing that up. I just want to lay this out there to all our panelists. What can corporations do to really set themselves up for success in the near future and grabbing this new talent, this talent out there that we need to capture to help us build better, more relevant, engaging video games? What can corporations do?
So I was thinking about this in particular as Gordon was talking about the scholarships that he puts forward. So having organizations, companies like Take-Two have to be visible to young people, not just because they're buying, they're downloading the games off of off of Xbox or PlayStation, but because they're there in front of
PlayStation, Xbox, bien, ya,
so estamos
pagados. Increíble, estamos pagados.
Scholarships to our grand prize winners, and I can tell you that that's a motivator for kids to participate, not just because there's a scholarship at the end, but it's because Take-Two is part of it. Like, it made us cool. Right. And I think it's that relationship at that young of an age that makes a connection for people. Is like, yeah, they want to hear what I have to say. Right. Like, they're here because this program exists and because I'm interested in doing it. And I think that kind of relationship with these kids, whether they're mentoring and coming into a classroom, they're volunteering at a game jam or judging games at the end of the competition, they're involved. And I think that it really has an impact on young kids' lives.
Yes, I love that.
I just want to add to what Suzanne's saying. I think that, and something that, we're talking about Take-Two, and thank you for having us, is making the success of Black people, of women, of queer people, of indigenous people, neurodiverse people, a business goal. Playing the same way that the consumption, right, of content, right, get some downloadable skins, buy some NBA 2K, right, that's a business goal around which the business is aligned. And I feel as though if the expertise of women, Black people, neurodiverse, other populations was a business goal, then that would be the change. It'd be that simple. Like, oh, our business is more successful.
Que no sé qué decir. Te lo juro que estoy anodado.
And that's about people being of value versus just being valuable, which are two different things. There's lots of exceptional people, right, who are of value in spite of their circumstances. They're valuable, right? There's a difference between saying you're of value and that's a business goal in itself. And I think that's the real change, because it used to be, I mean, just real talk, it used to be about exceptionalism, right? And be like, oh, you're able to thrive.
Pero si yo no tengo problema que el protagonista de GTA 6 sea transexual, o que sea bisexual, o que sea lesbiana, que sea gay, me da lo mismo. Me da lo mismo que sea gay o lesbiana, transexual, heterosexual, le gusten los caballos, me da lo mismo. Muéstrame GTA 6. Me da lo mismo de lo que sea el personaje. Después veremos en la historia si me gusta o no.
Right? And so as the lever moves more towards that, right? The same way, like, I have biases. I attended Harvard College, so I'm of value, right? There's value in that, right? I'm treated that way.
Vamos a calmarnos, como dijo Squartus, porque ya se están subiendo los ánimos, chicos, ¿vale? Por favor, no le pongan dislike al video por esto, porque no es culpa mía esto, yo solamente estoy retransmitiéndolo, ¿vale? Estoy retransmitiéndolo nada más.
Right. And that just speaks to being deliberate with our diversity, inclusion, equity practices. Corporations really have to take that accountability and, like you said, do what's right in that spectrum, in that conversation, looking at value from different sources and kind of recalibrating our minds to that. But like you guys have said, it takes time. It takes starting earlier in the pipeline. I love that you just call that out. What other things can corporations do that are just different than what we've been doing in the past, perhaps? What would you recommend?
I would even add to what Gordon just said. The looking at this challenge as a business challenge is key. That's what between the inspiration of the social justice marches from last summer and really talking to our chair, Danny Bilson, who said that, hey, if you were going to tackle this issue, this giant generational issue as a business problem, what would you do?
Yo me pregunto por qué ahora no se corta la luz. Ayer en la conferencia de Xbox estábamos todos entretenidos, viendo, escuchando, viendo todo lo mejor que venía de Xbox. Se corta la luz. Hoy viene y no se corta la luz.
Objectives, strategies, and tactics in place to achieve those goals from a business perspective, you're going to see outcome when it's not just, hey, here's a check and good luck with charity X. It's going to be more of, okay, here's a check. This is what we're hoping to see. Let's measure along the way and see if we're seeing progress on that. And it's the measurement of progress and adjusting in real time based on the data that you're getting back. That's where you're going to meet. That's where you're going to see the gap start to close in a meaningful way and be able to point out to other people in the industry, like, hey, this is what we can all do together. What if we scale this effort up and really had an impact on society as a whole? That mindset is really going to be what changes the game.
So I like to think about it as like a pie. You know, when we think about from a corporate strategy, we always think about there's a piece of the pie and everyone gets a little piece of the pie. But I think the way we have to approach this is really, the pie is not a fixed size. I think by including more people, the pie gets bigger. So it's not a fixed size that we're trying to all get a piece of, but by including more people, you know, in the industry, by becoming creators of this medium, we actually expand the medium, expanded beyond just entertainment. And I think that speaks really heavily to me as a problem solver. When I look at video games, it's such an underutilized tool for social change. And I think like that, I can see Susanna kind of has been on the forefront of that. And coming in as an outsider to the games industry, I was just kind of blown away that, oh my God, you can do so much. Like 9 out of 10 kids play video games. You know, not 9 out of 10 boys, 9 out of 10 kids. We're talking about literally changing perceptions and inspiring and educating generation after generation. And yet that power rests in the hand of like a select few. And I think when you think about it, not just from a corporate responsibility, but as a social responsibility, like what are we putting out there for our kids to consume? I think we need to bring in pretty much everyone, anyone and everyone who's interested in building a future together in that. So between the pie and the corporate responsibility, I feel like there's a lot that gets lost. Like I think there's a big dichotomy between these are people that are doing good and these are people that are self-serving, but it doesn't work like that. We have to work together and everyone does kind of go between what's good for me and what's good for everyone, you know, so.
Thank you for bringing that concept up, Layla. The codependency. We are all community members in this pipeline, and we have to be active, deliberate in our processes, in our systems, how we tackle this problem. Before we end this conversation, there's tons of questions that we have that we want to ask you. So I'm going to pause right now and give our esteemed questionnaires a chance to ask their questions that are top of mind related to our conversation today.
No, viene algo.
So we're going to start it off with some questions from our other video game industry experts here. We've got Carrie, she's an executive producer from Private Division. We also have Vanetta, who's a director of talent acquisition with Take-Two, and Nir, he's the head of mobile for Take-Two. So go ahead and fire it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Tony. The first question is for Layla, but certainly open to having the rest of our panelists answer the question. But at the beginning of your career, did you ever imagine being a leader within an industry that is predominantly male-dominated? And what is your advice for other young women that are interested in taking a similar path to where you are today?
Thank you, Juanita. I don't think I really envisioned being in a male-dominated industry, although I did envision being in a male-dominated world, because I grew up in the Middle East and I was painfully aware of being a girl and how my life was going to turn out to be different from my male peers or my brothers or my cousins or any of that. I was fortunate that my parents were very supportive and they wanted me to pursue whatever dream I wanted. But I think having that mindset and coming from a world that was very much male dominated already prepared me for, you know, hey, whatever I end up doing, there's going to be more boys or men than me. I think the piece of advice that I would really give girls is to honestly not think about your gender when you think about what you want to pursue, because it's all about you specifically. You might end up liking things that people, even your age, your geographic location, your, you know, educational background, or your family might not have heard of or even thought of. And that is all the things that I ended up doing. Didn't match anything that I had seen in my own environment, but I just kind of pursued what I wanted to. And then two is to kind of use a very selective hearing. I think you have to kind of develop selective hearing, listen to the people that care about you, that love you and encourage you in being more of who you are, and diminish the voices of people who say you can't do things because it's never been done, or that's not how it is, or that's not how the world works. The way the world works is based on the world that we build, and we're continually building a new world. So it doesn't matter how things are done now, they're going to be done a different way as you grow up, and you can be part of building that world. So those would be like my two pieces of advice for girls, is to just pursue what you want and, you know, develop selective hearing.
All right. My question is for Susanna, but also open to anyone else who would like to answer. And I think Gordon kind of hit it earlier when he said that, you know, most of us didn't have a lot of examples or opportunities. I'm in that boat. I didn't have any programs and anyone telling me that I could do this, and definitely had to, not necessarily an accident, but really had to work in a different way, harder than most. So my question, Susanna, for you is, could you share an example of how your program has impacted someone that has participated, or, you know, a few people?
Sure. So as I said, our program is 6 years old in New York City. We're a bit younger in the other cities that we're operating in, and there are opportunities now that kids all over the country can participate. But we saw in New York a very particularly strong cohort.
Yo vengo, motivo a la comunidad, le digo, chiquillos, vengan, vamos a ver qué es lo que viene de nuevo para Rockstar Games, ya sea GTA 5, hasta con GTA 5, weón, el nuevo motor estaría feliz. Nada. Y hablábamos de Red Dead Redemption 1 Remaster, Red Dead Redemption 3, está hablando de Red Dead Online actualización, está hablando de un montón de cosas. Y al final fue puro bla bla nomás. Puro bla bla. Lo seguimos esperando. Esta conferencia duraba hasta las
and making it a part of an annual program within their school system has also allowed students to continue with the program year on year. There's one young woman in particular who won, I think she won the like our theme category the first time round when she participated as a sophomore. The junior year, she won again. And by the senior year, she was a grand prize winner in New York City. And I hear that she then followed on with a full scholarship to NYU Game Center. Right. And it was just amazing. And I just remember she was invited to speak at the Games for Change Festival after she won. It must have been the second year. I don't think it was the third year. And she came and we were having a panel, a conversation about, you know, the program, and she was invited to speak at it. And her father came with her and followed her around the entire, like 2 days she was there with a camera recording her experience in this, you know, professional environment, not only when she was speaking, but when she was sitting and watching the other people on stage. And it was so awesome to see that kind of support within her family. And I'm like, all right, you've got educators supporting this young woman, this pathway. You've got her family. And actually, since she graduated, I've seen other kids in her family come through the program. But it takes that kind of multiple supports from different directions to really support this young woman who is a woman of color from Brooklyn, who found her path, right? And she got the right supports and she got there. And now I also understand that she's launched her own studio and is raising money, you know, on Kickstarter. She's remarkable.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that story. That's so cool.
Nir, do you have a question for our panelists?
Yeah, hi, I do. So my question is to Gordon. I'm looking at LGBTQ representation in gaming. I've been in gaming for more than 12 years, and it feels to me that representation is a bit low than what you would expect, what I see in tech in other sectors. Do you have some data or some thoughts about that? Is that the fair estimation? And if so, why is that? And what are the main challenges that LGBTQ individuals face in this industry?
Sure. Well, I'll tell you a little history here. So when we started GGP about 15 years ago, which is not that long ago in corporate times, queer people only existed on an anonymous mailing list, anonymous to each other. Okay, because employment safety, which is still a concern globally, not to mention just safety, was a #1 concern which all of us lived with. So, you know, even I, you know, back then, you know, weird flex, but I had designed Madden Football, had already sold a company to Activision, employment safety. So that is the #1 reason why. And just in this new recent history, have we begun to build the trust and value in each other so as to aggregate and to even acknowledge each other, okay? And to build systemic ties to companies like Take-Two and others to move from hiding from the industry, right? Escaping from the industry, to affinity, right? Like, right? To employee resource groups and corporate leaders like Tony existing, right? And we're moving closer to being a business resource. And so in other technology areas, that path is further along, where it is like to say in the batter, that the queer identity is of value, and there's customers, there's of course creators, there's of course business leaders and owners, you know, of all walks. And in the optimum business, you would cultivate, you know, all types of people. As a game craft, we are still in generation 1. You even asking this question here, you are a wild pioneer. You are the out there with your machete chopping down bamboo to even ask this question, which presumes that LGBT people would be employed, okay, and then in communication with each other, right? In communication with each other across different companies, and in any sort of ongoing concern. So
welcome. Thank you for asking. For those of you at home, we have a Discord and a Facebook that you can all join and participate at any time, or you can reach out to me directly on Twitter, Gordon Bellamy. Wherever you may be on or off your path as an LGBTQIA person or an ally, right? Because I think that's something we've all discovered. And I think whatever population you are part of, whether it be across gender or race or expression identity, is that you don't have to be a member to care, okay? You don't gotta be a member to say this is an important issue. And in fact, a lot of the work that we do at a corporate level is saying, hey,
lo que pasa es que me da rabia es que la E3 es el evento videogamer más importante de todo el año. Es el evento más importante, no importa lo que digan. Es el evento más importante de todo el año y nos traen esto.
And so asking these questions, corporate support, time, right? 3 T's, time, talent, and treasure, you know, will move this discussion forward. I hope that answers your question there, but otherwise just get at me. I can, you know, tell you more. And anyone else there who's watching, we can tell you more in greater detail.
Gordon, I know your company has some things going on in the few months.
Oh,
sure. Talk about some of the activities you guys have.
Sure. So we have most of our content now, in addition to our Scholars Program and our community service that we do with Take-Two, is streaming. So we stream front page of Twitch and we bring it to YouTube, content around equity, inclusion, belonging. And not just LGBT, we just had our second Indigenous Game Creators panel yesterday. Big hit, because you know what? Indigenous creation has always been here. In August, we're gonna be doing our first GGP Honors, which is gonna be honoring the best in diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging in our craft. So we're going to be lifting up the people
algo dulce,
who
chicos.
do the work,
algo dulce para tragar esta maldita amargura. Algo dulce.
Like
y me sabe a hiel.
People need to be cultivated as well, right? The same way that we cultivate engineers, artists, and other things that we value, right? Things that we value need to be cultivated. So we're going to be getting to do that work August. Tune in, front page of Twitch. It's going to be a mood. Hope you're all there.
Awesome. Thank you. We probably have time for one more question, so let's go for it.
La última pregunta, por favor. La última.
Oh, I have several questions. One,
más que nada dicen que están hablando sobre la integridad, sobre la diversidad, sobre que tenemos que apoyar a las personas que es diferente, a los que son gays, transexuales, bisexuales, homosexuales, animasexuales y todo lo que venga saliendo ahora. Hay que apoyarlos porque ellos son minoría y toda esa mierda, y que Take-Two está al lado y a favor de, en este caso, apoyar estas cositas, tanto de cuando están más chicos, y eso se ha tratado de la conferencia de Take-Two en la E3 de videojuegos.
Also, I mean, to add to that, I think the
por favor,
a few of us have touched on earlier is an old adage from the business world: you can't manage what you can't measure. If you don't have a way to see how your progress is evolving over a continuum, you're kind of just going, well, I think something's working. Let's just keep doing that. And business people, myself being one of them, don't respond well to that. It's just okay, let's just keep investing in a thing that I don't know the results of. You need to be able to go back and say, hey, this year we were here, this following year we were here. Here's the, you know, not only have we seen a positive impact on the investment or good ROI, but we also recognize the fact that the partner and partners that we're working with are making moves and making investments into the future that they're saying that they want to see. The positive feedback loop of being able to say, here's data that shows that what we're doing is having an impact on our objectives, and rewarding that partner or those partners for that investment and for that support. That's really key to building a positive feedback loop around investing in diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yeah, what Jim said, but I'd still say make it mobile. God, if you could move that needle like 0.2%, anything, you can't get cut. You can't get cut then, right? There's no way, no one can say budget's tight when you're moving that needle 0.2%, right?
No, the scale at which we all operate, it's pretty staggering when you think about it. When you aggregate how much revenue and profit goes and gross profit goes in the games business for a meaningful moving of the needle of DEI, comparatively speaking, it's not a huge amount of money. It's, to have a really big demonstrable impact, measurable impact. If we aggregate our dollars and really focus on some key objectives, we can really move the needle in a way that's going to, frankly, when you start seeing things work, people get excited. It worked. Let's keep doing it. Let's keep doing it. And it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's why the Lawson Fund is what it is. It's an endowment because we want to see it have an impact in the aggregate over time, over generations, and support students for decades to come. Not just have it be this fiscal year, what can we do?
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
One more thing, just to let it go, is just keep saying Black out loud. Right? Let's get back to Black is beautiful. We've been residing in Black Lives Matter for a long time, and we need to be back to like Black and proud and Black and beautiful. And so your existence, right? And saying it and saying positive outcomes after the word Black is meaningful each and every day that you can do it in your ERG.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Thank you.
Good question. We've got time for more. What else do we have?
All right, I'll go if we have time for more. Layla, how have you been able to actually connect with the people in the community to bring awareness for your programs? Like, how do you actually gather people, to participate, and especially like in the very beginning?
Oh my gosh. So the first camp in 2014, we literally like barged into a maker fair with flyers, and we were just going around and being like, you look like you would love video games because you're playing with robots right now. So come to our camp. But I think it's pretty much primarily been word of mouth originally, but then when we ended up partnering with the game studios and game companies, that really helped elevate the program and the PR. I think Susanna touched on that. It's like it actually legitimized us and then kind of made us really cool. Like, hey, you can go make games at these game studios. You can actually make a game at Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, Take-Two. You can go into their offices, meet the developers, and make these games. And I think that cool factor has kind of really helped us out. When it comes to speakers and people who want to mentor and be involved, that's been a lot easier because, a lot of our teachers end up being college students themselves, and they come back and they'll say things like, I wish this program existed when I was younger. It sucks I couldn't go to it, but at least I get to be a part of it and give back to the kids. And then same thing for mentors and speakers. There's so much interest in wanting to give back and wanting to welcome new voices into the industry. We haven't really had to do a lot of pushing. In fact, we get pulled in a lot of directions. I was talking to my team the other day. I was like, this is a very fortunate problem to have where we're getting pulled in 100 directions because we're needed in 100 directions, as opposed to us telling people that, hey, this is important, pay attention, and, look at what we're doing. So I would say it's been very organic, and really the tide is turning. We're building a new industry. We're building on the industry that we have, but we're also building a new part of the industry together.
En realidad no sé, chico, qué decir de verdad. Yo no.
Thank you.
No puedo decir nada.
And thank you to our panelists. You guys have been very inspirational, very thought-provoking, and have left us with a lot of great tidbits to take away, to take back to our corporations and our respective organizations to really make a deliberate impact in our community that we're building and this whole world of diversity and equity and inclusion in the video game industry. So thank you all. Thank you, the viewers, for joining, and have fun at the virtual E3 conference.
I think ever since Mega Man X, I've just loved the sort of 8-bit, 16-bit pixel art style. As an artist, I just kind of fell in love with that aesthetic.
Number one, Mega Man X, favorite game of all time. Whenever somebody asks me the deserted on an island question, Mega Man X is the game.
I would say Tomb Raider. Lara Croft is the reason why I started to become really adventurous in my own life and wanted to be as intelligent and curious and brave as her.
Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. I feel like that was the first video game that I've ever played where I've seen so many black people in one game and felt like, oh my gosh, my people. You got the Isley Brothers playing on the radio? Like, oh yes.
Aquí como me siento exactamente igual.
The rapper on PlayStation.
El buen pesca el árbol, ¿cachai? Cuando está la niña hablando, directamente oye sí, y el buen pesca el árbol de Navidad, y se lo tira. Exactamente lo mismo estoy sintiendo yo ahora en este momento. En este momento se lo quiero lanzar a Take Two en todos los hijos.
I have been waiting my entire life to play a character like Bulk, and yeah, it's changed my life.
My favorite game is, without question, absolutely League of Legends. It's been like a decade since release, and it's still just at the top of the charts, and it's where I go with all my friends and hang out. It's my go-to.
That was the first female I actually ever seen play video games. It's my mother, and she loved 007.
Ya no puedo hacer nada.
And we would all play, me, my brother, my mother, and my dad, and we would just go crazy in that game, have game nights and everything.
Lion King, Sega, on Sega, because that will teach you about life right quick.
Ya se acabó ya, ¿no es cierto? Se acabó el calvario. Parece que se acabó, chicos. Parece que vamos a terminar el directo porque en realidad me quiero ir a suicidar ahora. Así que si no ven directo hoy día a la noche o mañana.
TV should have his own segment. Every time he's on camera, I'm just like cracking up. Love him. Anyway, welcome back to E3 2021. Do not forget to check out e3expo.com/shop for your E3 2021 needs.
Look like this. Don't you want to look like this, young man?
You want to look just like me?
You want to look like a schlub like me? I'm in a bomber jacket. Nobody likes me. Or do you want to be in an E3 bomber jacket and everybody likes him?
All the kids want to look just like me anyway.
Okay, anyway, we do need to give a big thank you to Razer. Do you see our lovely little Razer Blade laptops here? And then we're in the Razer Isker chair. Oh, sorry, you didn't get one.
I got the chair, though.
You did, and they're amazing. The lumbar support is on point, y'all. Greg, you and I, we're tall folks, so it's like you need that lumbar support. It makes us stand up straight.
Bueno, chicos,
not a tall person, you don't understand how hard it is.
Esto fue todo. La verdad es que me quiero.
It's embarrassing, right? Oh, right. Sorry about that.
Okay, be nice, gentlemen.
The pain I'm feeling right now. I don't have a laptop. Greg make fun of me. You know what? I quit. No, I'm kidding.
No, you know what was low-key the best thing? Yesterday, they were like, Golden Boy, can you put your chair up higher? Can you put your chair up higher? And Greg and I were being so nice. We were not saying anything. We were just like, okay. Anyway, my producer's like, move it along, Jackie. So we did this great segment earlier where we were talking about 90s games and the impact that they had on us. And I kind of went off the rails and started talking about Chrono Trigger and Illusion of Gaia at length. But,
no hay nada. En serio, Rockstar, en serio, Take Two, va al maldito E3 a presentar esto. En serio, en serio, me hiciste perder una hora de mi vida. Una hora de mi vida. Escuchando una conferencia de puro bla bla sobre la diversidad. Que con cuál entendía algo. Intentaba de traducir en mi mente algo. Me esforzaba, envejecí 10 años tratando de entender lo que estaban hablando. Así decían algo sobre GTA o Red Dead Redemption. O por último la NBA. 2K, no sé, cualquier cosa. Y esto traes, y esto es lo que traes. Y ustedes, la E3, ¿cómo mierda permiten esto? ¿Cómo permiten que Take Two traiga esta mierda de conferencia y la anuncien como si fuera una gran weá? ¿Por qué? Estos tienen que filtrar. Oye, ¿sabes qué? Vienen a hablar de E3 y, pero tienen que hablar de videojuegos, de lo que van a traer. No, venimos a hablar sobre la inclusividad, sobre el racismo, sobre la inclusión y que sean diversos. ¿Sabes qué? Yo no estoy en contra de eso. Me agrada que tú como empresa gigantesca te interese ese tema. Estamos totalmente de acuerdo con eso. Pero no vengas aquí a la E3 a poner ese tema ahí. Porque aquí hablamos de videojuegos, de consolas, de posibles eventos, de actualizaciones. Algo que tenga que ver con los videojuegos. No, ¿qué pasa? Que nosotros somos Take Two y tenemos así una billetera gigante. Entonces la ponemos arriba de la mesa, que caiga y tenéis que aceptarme igual, no, porque soy Take Two y yo vengo a hablar lo que se me para del culo. Y que vamos a hablar una conferencia de vamos a meter a 7 u 8 personas a hablar de la diversidad. Y si no aceptáis, ya tienes a las consecuencias. A eso vienes, a la conferencia de E3, a la conferencia de videojuegos más importante de todo el año, después de haber tenido una de mierda el año pasado. Vienes y nos muestras esto, ¿de verdad? Yo creo que la gente del E3 debería clausurar y nunca más vetar a esto con el Take-Two y que nunca más haga una conferencia aquí en la E3, de verdad. Nos pasaron, me imagino cómo tengan sido los canales que tengan más suscriptores, chicos. Yo agradezco mucho a la gente que está aquí y tirando mierda en cada momento. Yo decía, no, tranquilo, chicos, si viene algo, no vino nada. Y hemos perdido más de una hora de vida en esta mierda. Y no me refiero a mierda con respecto al tema que estaban hablando. Nada que ver. ¿Vale? Yo no estoy en contra de lo que es la inclusividad, sobre la gente de color, sobre la gente que es gay, lesbiana y todos los parafernalia que hay sobre eso, que en realidad a mí no me... No me importa. O sea, no es un tema de que a mí esté en contra de eso. Yo no estoy en contra de eso. Lo que estoy en contra es de la mierda de conferencia que acabas de presentar. Porque todos esperamos un GTA 6, todos esperamos una expansión de GTA 5, Red Dead Redemption, 2K, Bioshock, lo que sea. Y no trajeron nada. Una vez más, Rockstar, no esperábamos nada de ti y aún así nos decepcionas. Nos decepcionas. Pero de manera que no te puedes imaginar. De verdad que yo, de verdad chicos, que yo siento mucho, lamento desde lo más profundo de mi alma haberlos invitado a presenciar esta mierda. Lamento mucho chicos porque yo puse un título interesante de que iba a meter alguna cosa. Yo lo siento mucho, de verdad, lo siento mucho. Lo siento mucho de haberlos invitado con la esperanza de que Rockstar podía, en este caso, traernos algo sobre Red Dead Redemption, sobre GTA, sobre cualquier cosa. Pero no han traído esta pedazo de mierda y nuevamente nos hemos comido un pene tan gordo, weón, que no voy a querer almorzar en 3 días, por lo menos. De verdad, agradezco, chicos. Hoy en la noche estaremos en directo. Ya, no sé si haremos directos unas 4 o 5 horas antes de que actualice en este caso, el juego. Esperando a ver si Rockstar decide meter algo en el martes de actualización. Más de que alguna cosa u otra. Vamos a esperar. Vamos a ser los primeros en estar. Vamos a ser los primeros en decepcionarnos o vamos a ser los primeros en enterarnos qué es lo nuevo para Red Dead Redemption. Así que chicos, de verdad lo agradezco un montonazo. Yo lo siento mucho, de verdad. Lo siento mucho. Pero eso era decir adiós. Eso era decir adiós.
Oh, man.
Blanco's block party.
Gracias. Bye.
It's a lot of things.
The game or just a Blanco?
I'm looking at you. Perfect. Awesome. So Blancos was originally what we thought a player